The Ring 4, November 22nd. Watch only on DAZN.
This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground. Delighted to be joined here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with a lovely, lovely backdrop at the legend of boxing, one of the legends of British boxing.
Does it look good, the backdrop, Charlie?
Looks very, very nice.
Oh, that's nice. That's good.
Mr. Steve Bunce, always lovely to catch up with you, sir. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be with Charlie, boy.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming to my hotel.
Oh, thank you.
Not making me travel all over Riyadh to you.
Well, Ubers are very cheap over here, my friend.
Journeys are very long.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. How is the Kingdom treating you?
It's about my 12th or 13th. I can't quite work it out. A visit here, and this is a really ridiculously low-key and relaxed week. I don't know how you found it at the Stomping Ground. I know you're doing a bit of DAZN stuff, but I found it really low-key. And everybody I've needed, I've got to. One or two I haven't needed, I haven't tried to get to, but one or two people, so I'm told, are being a bit awkward. And I don't think anybody of the 8 fighters in the world title fights should be refusing anything.
At the point where they're being awkward.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone should just be open door because it's so relaxed. Because at the end of the day, we've been at massive fights out here, and there's 90 people want an interview. What would there be now? 10, 11, 12 people want an interview? At the most, for how many of us? There 15, 16 people here? Different outfits, small outfits, big outfits? It's easy.
I suppose let's go into it then. We're going to put this out immediately. We don't want to cover on it loads because obviously only a couple of hours now until we get ourselves to fight night. Let's look at the British charges in Noakes and Yard. Can they do it?
Yeah, I mean, anyone can win any fight. I'm not sure what the what the betting shops say. I would imagine they're decent to big outsiders. Abdullah Mason is a great talent. He's been carefully handled, smartly handled. Sam Noakes is a great talent, and he's been carefully handled, smartly handled. Yard, we know the full strength of Yard. I'm not quite sure we know the full strength of Benavidez at light heavy. We know what he is, and we know what he's capable of. We know what he did at. We know what he's done at super middleweight. We know the big names on his record, and we know the 2 light heavyweight fights. They're quality fights. Don't get me wrong. So there's a few unknowns, and there's a lot of knowns attached. It's the Mason and Noakes one that I think's most interesting, because I think people could be so wrong with this either way. I think you could come up with a scenario where you have Mason blow him out in 2 rounds, and you can come up with a scenario where Noakes grinds out a really hard 12-round decision. Will the result be somewhere in the middle? So I think it's one where people could be absolutely wrong, so wrong, not even close to right, and then someone else could be absolutely right. And for no absolute reason. I don't have a strong feeling about it either way. I sat with Abdullah earlier this week when I came out, and I was...
You're a big fan of him, right?
Oh,
he handles himself.
Oh no, I'm stunned. I mean, he's a 21-year-old kid, and even if he's been, it's a horrible word, even if he's been groomed by the people around him, the top-ranked team, and his father and his brothers and his mother, even if he's coming from a lovely and nurturing family and being supported, he's still got to be at 21 years of age. He's still got to present himself without erring and ahhing and repeating himself and sounding fake and forced. I sat with him for about 20 minutes, and I was genuinely impressed, with his youth and just how calm he was and confident he was, but without any sign of arrogance whatsoever. Lots of confidence. I love. There's a confidence and arrogance thin line that people sometimes cross, and sometimes people aren't quite sure which is which. But with this kid, it wasn't arrogance, it was confidence. And I was really impressed with him. I was impressed with his father, and I had a chat with his mother. I was impressed with him. But then I sat down with Sam Noakes in Al Smith's gym about 2 weeks ago, and I was more impressed with Sam Noakes than I've ever been impressed. What I was impressed was there was a mixture. He couldn't wait to get out here. So he was in awe of what had happened, in awe of what the money he was going to get, what he could possibly do, and his opponent, and what he could achieve if he beats a guy like Abdullah Mason, who's in theory destined for great things. But more than that, there was a great confidence in Sam. And I think he was quite happy that people think he's just one-dimensional, heavy-fisted guy that can go back and forward in straight lines. He's very good at doing that, but that's not all he can do.
Steve, talk to me about, you were saying that what you've heard from the gym of Sam, even when it comes to just setting PRs on deadlifts and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, there was Carl Frampton last year, to 2024. Carl Frampton, when we were both at TNT in the glory days. Don't start me getting. I'll start welling up if you talk about TNT and going and all the money I've lost. Easy, hey, I'm doing a recording in here, please. Have a bit of sense. No. So Carl Frampton went to do a piece with Sam in the gym. One of those kind of classic TNT pieces. They send 7 people, whole day shooting, 32 seconds gets shown on air, which is just, just such a waste of money. But Carl goes and spends, it's the absolute truth. It's like a 7, there's a dolly shot, there's the dish shot, there's the walking in. It's like 12 hours. They fly Carl. I mean, the 32 seconds has got to cost about 50 grand to make, and it looks lovely. So all the really good stuff they don't film. So this is a true story. Because listen, Charlie, I did about 50 of these films myself, son. Don't worry about that. So Carl calls me up in the car going back to the airport. And he says, Bunce, he said, you know what, we obviously have had Sam Noakes on TNT. He'd probably had 13 fights by that stage. He said, you ever been in a gym with him? I said, I'm not. He said, he's the strongest man I've ever known. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, you've been around like heavies and heavies. He said, no, honestly. He said, he's a freak. He said, he can lift weights. He can lift weights that he shouldn't be able to even get off the floor. He said, everything he does is incredible. All these times on everything is incredible. He's just this like super freakish human. And he said, the other thing, he said, you ever touched him? He said, I said, yeah, funny enough. I said, I do remember at your call once shaking his hand and thinking, is he putting that on or has he actually made a rock? Yeah. Now, some fighters put it on. Some fighters intentionally don't shake your hand. I don't think Sam realises, but so when I went back to the gym, I tested it a little bit. I did the sort of tap on the shoulder, making out I was just reassuring him. And he is
solid.
He's solid as a rock, yeah. No. A lot of fighters are solid as rocks. Let's get that right. It's not unique. But from Frampton's testimony about the freakish stuff. So then I asked Alan Smith about it, and Alan Smith did that thing where he's going, yeah, he's unbelievable. No one else can touch him in the gym. And apparently it really annoys the guys in the gym who are naturally bigger than him when Sam can outdo them at any of the weight sessions. I love it to death.
Anthony Yarde, you were talking about the odds just briefly. We've been going on record, I don't know if the odds have changed now, but a couple of days ago, Anthony Yarde was the same odds to beat David Benavidez that Jake Paul is to beat
Charlie, I gave you one chance on Jake Paul. If you mentioned Jake Paul, I said I was walking out, didn't I?
You actually didn't say that.
No, I don't know, but I was using... No, I'm only kidding. We'll talk about Jake Paul later.
But no, more the odds side of it.
No,
they are giving
that's
David
absurd.
Benavidez, Anthony Yarde, the same chance of beating David Benavidez that they are... Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua.
The crazy thing is, okay, let me turn on. For a start, those odds are ridiculous. I mean, the Jake Paul odds against AJ are quite mad. But hey, that's it, and that fight's to be discussed. A bit later on. Let me ask you a question: who would you fancy at any weight, Yarde or Jake Paul?
Anthony Yarde.
Absolutely. I mean,
by destruction.
By destruction. I'm serious. I mean, I don't want to just make this about Jake Paul and AJ, but that's what you'd fancy. So those odds are ridiculous. I understand that. I understand why Yarde would be an underdog against Benavidez. There has been a sort of, if you like, there's been a massive pile-on of love for Benavidez since the move
lovely
up.
Lovely guy, by the way.
And he's a lovely fellow as well. That stuff with his boy always out next to him. I mean, how refreshing has it been? Because there's been a little bit of sort of, kind of boorish behaviour by one or two people, a couple of dads. I know it's good business, but it's not very nice, and they haven't been very good at it. But how lovely has it been with the Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes loving, because it is a family loving from both sides. That's been great, and also the Benavidez and Yarde, they'll do the stare, no problem. We've seen them do it twice this week. But then they'll also clamp each other in a hug and shake hands, which I'm a big fan of. I don't mind animosity if it's genuine, if I can find a root for it. But when there's no animosity and it's built and it's fake animosity, just coming from nowhere, it doesn't do anything for me. So I've been really reassured by the Benavidez, who I like a lot and I think he's terrific. But Yarde, I don't know, there's just something about Yarde, you can't write him off. I saw up close nearly in Siberia when he fought Kovalev. We were ringside and he was right above me in the 8th round when he had Kovalev in all sorts of trouble. And then we saw at the end when he was out on his feet, could have been pulled out could have been pulled out of the round before he was done. Maybe could have even been pulled out a round and a half before he was finally beaten. Yarde's enormously brave and enormously tough, and if there is any weaknesses with Benavidez at light heavyweight, Yarde will find them. And I know he's 34 now, so 6 years older than Benavidez. But Yarde, take those 2 fights out of the equation, the 2 lost world title fights. He hasn't really been in wars. The 3 fights with Lyndon Arthur weren't wars. The one he lost wasn't a war. He just didn't do enough on the night, and Linford and Lyndon did. So he's not as shot worn as maybe his record suggests, to be honest with you, Charlie. So I think it's an interesting one. I really do. I think both the fights involving Brits, I can make decent cases for them winning. I understand that they're going to start as underdogs. Don't worry.
Let's discuss the small matter of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last week. Incredible.
Yeah, it was a lovely night, wasn't it?
Both ring walks fantastic. The fight
again
a little bit flatter than the first time round. Are you a 50 Cent man, Steve Bunce?
Listen, when 50 Cent came, it was interesting. I was with Richie Woodler, and he went to me, "Who's that? Who's that?" I went, "Rich, there's 50 Cent. What are you talking about,
bro?" Steve, I rate that.
Yeah, no. So that was quite good. I thought 50 Cent looked a bit rough. Like no, didn't you think he looked a bit rough? Like he looked to me like he'd landed the day before, and he'd been in his clothes. He'd been on a bender for 36 seconds. Go back and have a look. No, seriously, go back. He doesn't look as crisp as he normally looks. Unless, of course, he landed that afternoon. I don't know. But my theory is he came into town, no disrespect. There's going to be no shortage of people want to go on a 36-hour bender with 50 Cent. Let's get that absolutely right. Apart from Richie Woodall, right?
Would you get involved in a bender with 50 Cent?
Absolutely. Leave me alone. Absolutely, I would. If I had a phone call on at 10 a.m., 10 in the morning on the Thursday from a couple of my friends in London, said, "Bunce, what are you doing the next couple of days?" "Well, I'm busy with a fight." "Well, listen, we got 50 and you want to come out?" "I'm in. Of course I'm in." I don't know. I'm not quite sure how it would work producing the pods, but hey ho, we'll do it. Who knows?
Oh, brilliant.
No, so the ring walk was brilliant. That was brilliant. The event was phenomenal. And the fight was, you couldn't take your eyes off it, but, of course it wasn't a barnstorm. It wasn't a brilliant fight. Eubank wasn't there, but I was with Eubank twice that week. Decent length interviews, sitting with him and talking to him and around his people. And I'm going to tell you absolutely truthfully, I had no idea that was going to be the performance we got from him. I got no sign. I was looking at his face before the weigh-in, looking at him on the Monday when we had that massive press day, or not press day for the. It was just for the. Well, it was kind of a media day, but it was only DAZN. It was only talking. It was only 5 Live. And they really kept it strict. I sat for him a long time then, 10, 15 minutes, and we did a nice 12-minute interview. It was a long time we sat around talking because he was due in somewhere else, but Benn was there, so he had some time to kill, so he sat with me. And I got no suggestion from sitting with him that he would be as flat as he was. No suggestion whatsoever. I didn't get, and I know people have said, "Oh yeah, I knew on the Tuesday and the Monday before." Well, that's great. I didn't. I was with him, Charlie, and I was around all week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, busy days, long days, doing stuff with Eddie in the daytime, slapping all over, and I didn't get a single sense that there was a problem. But 3 seconds into this fight, 4 seconds into this,
immediately.
I'm talking 10 seconds in. You could just sense everything about his body, everything about the way he's shaped up, everything about his body language was wrong straight away. So it wasn't like he became an old man during the fight. It was almost like he took the robe off and he'd become an old man. I don't think I've ever seen that. I've seen guys finish their careers 1, 2, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, and it's finished, it's gone. But he didn't have it from the very first seconds. So I'm wondering if it could have happened. I wonder if it happened in the dressing room. I wonder if it happened when he was warming up. I've talked to fighters that have said that. I knew it was wrong as soon as I was leaving the dressing room. I didn't feel right on the day, and I felt right all week, and I've had that quite a few times. I've sort of compiled a list of fighters that have grown old during the fight, and I'm going to add Eubank to that list now.
valiant performance given the fact he went the whole 12 rounds and managed to finish up on his feet. I agree. I think it looks like in the 12 he was just desperate to finish up on his feet as he did. He knew that he was defeated in there, just couldn't get going. What did you make of his post-fight press conference? Is that a defeated man who's going to retire? I think it'll be a man that probably wants to retire, but will obviously have his options open, because who knows what comes up. I mean, you can't rule anything out. Let's get that absolutely right. So will there be a big cry for him to continue? I doubt it, but who knows what can happen. Who knows who's out there? I mean, and who knows for how much that fight's out there. I mean, he's not going to come back for peanuts just as a warm-up. He's not going to fight at the Brighton Centre on an undercard to his cousin Harlem, is he? He's not going to do anything like that. So if he does continue, it's going to be for a fortune. And of course, I guess there is the trilogy fight. Although saying that, there was Would you want to watch a trilogy? No, I wouldn't want to watch a trilogy. But I wouldn't want to watch a trilogy. But I understand why there could be a trilogy, and there'd be enough people, Charlie. Maybe not you and I sitting here, but there'd be enough people who would look at it and say, well, it's obviously a trilogy because Eubank won and won the first, and Conor won the second, and it's still the dads is a great rivalry. So why shouldn't there be a trilogy? There shouldn't be a trilogy because I think Eubank became an old man in that fight. Or maybe he was all week and he just masked it. And I thought Conor Benn was absolutely brilliant. I was going to say that. Yeah, I mean, everything Conor did, from being calm, not getting greedy, which is what Tony Sims. I don't know if you had any access to stuff that was being said in the corner, but Tony was calming him down, pulling him back. Even in the start of the 12th round, Tony's pulling him back the whole time. Whereas in Eubank's corner, about round 9, they were convinced he was stealing the rounds. So he was getting some conflicting information, which hasn't fully emerged. We talked about it on radio because we had access to the corners. So Conor, what do you make of that? I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, that's Conor was just. I mean, I thought it was 12-0 in rounds. There's a clear argument for 12. I think he got a couple of sympathy rounds from a couple of judges, and I understand it because he lost rounds by less than he lost previous rounds. Could Conor have won it more convincingly, which is ridiculous to say when I think he won 12 rounds. Yes, he could, but he did the right thing. He listened to Tony from start to finish. And the first fight, I know you've spoken to Conor, so you know this, but Conor talks about the first fight all just being some sort of blur. He just doesn't know where he was. He can't remember this round or that round. He just knows it. All he wanted to do was fight. This was a totally different Conor. It was like he'd had a complete ring intelligence transfer, and it worked a treat. I was going to say, as much as we obviously sit here and understand that maybe Chris Eubank Jr.'s performance was nowhere near as good as could have been, aged overnight to a certain extent. Conor himself, though, like we say, disciplined compared to that first fight, boxed the game plan very, very well.
Stuck with it.
What is next for Conor Benn? He's talking about moving down to 147. We've just heard Ryan Garcia's signed the Barrios fight. Matchroom have Lewis Crocker. What are the sort of fights that you'd like to see Conor Benn in? And where do you rank him? Can he be elite?
Well, elite's sort of misleading term these days because we've got people elite that maybe wouldn't have been elite in a different time and maybe shouldn't be elite now. I think we've got to consider our top fighters in a more rounded way. So, are they incredibly popular? Can they do great business? Are they media? I mean, there's a whole sort of bit. So, if you look at it that way, he's right up there. Is he one of the top welterweights in the world? Well, he hasn't fought a top welterweight. Let's get that absolutely clear. Should he, in theory, have to fight one of the welterweights from the top 10? Absolutely he should, but life doesn't work that way, and boxing life doesn't work that way. Will he be thrown in a world title fight? Absolutely he should, because he wouldn't be the first British guy to walk into a world title fight without beating a top fighter at his weight. That's just the business we're in, and we need to just calm down a little bit with our outrage. Oh, it's outrageous that he's doing this, outrageous that he's doing that. That's just the way the business works, It's not a fair business. It's a business, remember, and this is an old expression, and it's a great expression. It's a Don King expression. It's a business where you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So the bottom line is Conor Benn, Matchroom and DAZN can negotiate for him a world title fight. And does he deserve to walk straight into a Crocker world title fight at 147 where he's never beaten anybody? He's beaten some good faded names. Of course he doesn't. Do I want to see him walk into a world title fight with Lewis Crocker? Absolutely. Or Barrios, or Devon Haney, or Brian Norman. I've got no problem with him walking straight into any of those fights, or some kind of ridiculous fight with Ryan Garcia, even though, or Shakur Stevenson moves up and they have it at some, Shakur goes to 148. Who knows? That's the business we're in. That's the business we're in, and some people need to, not just older people in the boxing business, but everybody in the boxing business needs to understand this is a really big global business we're in at the moment. It's booming, it's thriving, and fights like Conor Benn against another, against the Shakur, against the Ryan Garcia, walking into a Crocker fight. We have to expect those fights to happen because it's an awful lot. I mean, look at Michael McKinson, right? Think about him. He's been absolutely frozen out. That's the way life works. It's an unfair business.
Nigel Benn was saying to Conor, look, you can make all the money in the world. You're the type of character that's going to make an awful lot of money, but nothing will ever beat having that world title strap.
And especially the green one, because it's what Nigel had. Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. So you go chasing after the WBC belt. You chase fights that... Listen, Conor Benn's not going to have to do what British fighters have had to do in the past, which is sell their souls to get a world title fight, travel somewhere that's really hostile for peanuts to get the belt, to come back and cash in.
Like Yard with Kovalev.
Yeah, I mean, just like lots of people with lots of people going back from, my hot history is from the 70s on, and guys... they went to Mexico City and fought in front of 40,000 for like £8.50 because they would win the WBC belt. They did stuff. They did ridiculous things like that. They travelled to Las Vegas and fought in the incredible heat against Americans, who were being promoted by Don King, like Colin Jones did. So, and Lloyd Hannigan going on a foreign promotion in Atlantic City against all odds. For absolute peanuts. But that's what they had to do. Conor Benn's never going to be in that position.
Bunchy, I'm aware you're going to eat fairly soon, so I don't want to waste up too much of your time. If I ask you about Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, are you going to walk off?
No, listen. I'm one of those guys that, I've been a Jake Paul fan. I think Jake Paul, when he was 3-4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 0, was still one of the best cruiserweight novices in the world. Also, I know that Jake Paul trains unbelievably hard. I know he looks after all his sparring partners. He looks after everybody in his business. And as a 10-bout cruiserweight novice, I think I would have put him with any 10-bout cruiserweight novice. That's the key. I would have put him with any 10-bout cruiserweight novice. Right now, whatever he is, 13, 14 fights in, I'd stick him in with any bridgerweight novice with the same amount of experience. Yeah. I've got no problem with it. I have no problem when he finishes fights and calls out, King Kong, flipping the Lion King, any cool. I've got no problem with that. That's the Jake Paul way of doing business. Now, I've got more of a problem with everybody telling me, this is the apocalypse for boxing. Of course it's not. How could Anthony Joshua refuse? Even if
70 million.
Even if it's not 70, even if it's the lowest sum we're hearing, which is like 50 million, how could he not refuse? And here's the thing: have you met a fighter yet who could look you in the eye above middleweight and say, "I wouldn't have fought him"? I mean, imagine offering Chevon Clark $1 million, right? Imagine offering Vidal Riley $1 million. They'd swim across the Atlantic to fight Jake Paul for $1 million.
Sam Noakes $1 million.
Oh, Sam Noakes. Listen, I'd fancy Sam Noakes against Jake Paul. Don't worry about that. Pat McCormack, right? Now, I know he's fighting. Well, he's not fighting for the British light welterweight because they can't have fights overseas. Pat McCormack swells up to about 13 stone. I'd back Pat McCormack, but it wouldn't do the business that Jake Paul does. That's why they've come with this fight. It's not the apocalypse. Okay, let's get that absolutely right. Would I rather AJ had come back 6 months ago and fought, I don't know, Frank Sanchez? Of course I would have. But that's not the way it's worked. He's now been out of the ring for 15 months, 16, 17 months. He was always going to come back. We now know he was going to come back in disguise this weekend. He was going to come out as fight number 5, which was a mystery, which sorry for digressing. Imagine if they'd have kept that quiet, Charlie. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
If they'd have kept that quiet, it might
see AJ bowl out.
So we don't know what. So what's fight 5 then? I don't know. They haven't said it, but they got before the intermission. There's a 5. What's the 5th fight then? And can you imagine?
Imagine trying to sneak AJ into the venue. Though.
I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. They could have done it though, because there's underground tunnels. Can you imagine if tonight, just before the first Sam Noakes' world title fight, half an hour before,
AJ's in a 10-round.
Michael Buffer gets in the ring, and we think, what's Buffer doing? He's not meant to be here for 2 more fights. And he just says, we have a special attraction. And out comes AJ against wherever. I mean, that was happening. You know that was happening, don't you? I mean, that's not a joke.
AJ said in the press.
But we've had a feeling AJ might do something before Christmas. He had no option to take this fight. The abuse AJ gets, and
awful.
The abuse. He's the most. No other fighter in British history has been placed under so much pressure when they turn professional. And people say, what about Ricky Hatton? Ricky Hatton wasn't even on the fight poster for when he made his debut. That's how much pressure Ricky Hatton was under. And you may have heard from various journalists who claim to have been at Ricky Hatton's fight and interviewed him after his debut in Widnes on the Robin Reed undercard. Liars. Straightforward, out and out. Fibberoonies, okay, absolute fibbers. So that's Ricky Hatton. Joe Calzaghe, he turned pro in absolute obscurity. Chris Finnegan, Olympic champion from 1968, turned pro on a dinner show 6 weeks after winning the Olympic medal, right? James DeGale, gold medalist, fights 5 months later, gets booed out of the ring. Trust me, no one ever in British history has been under so much pressure from the moment they turn professional than AJ, and the pressure grows every single day. You heard what he said about Jude Bellingham, and he looks down the camera and he says, you guys don't understand the pressure he's under every second of every day. Not for 90 minutes on a Saturday, not for 36 minutes every 5 months when he's in a world title fight or a title fight. 24/7. No matter where he goes, there are people there papping him, following him, looking for something, trying to get a quote out of him, trying to get something from him. And it's been that way, Charlie, since probably the semi-finals of the Olympics, going back to 2012 summer. AJ's put up with more pressure, more abuse, hostility, outright racism. Let's not mince our words. Out and out racism and hate that is out of all proportion. And so when I hear some of the latest criticism of him taking this fight and bringing boxing into the doldrums, but guess what? He dragged it from a pit and he made it as big as it is now.
Gareth A. Davies said it was damaging for his legacy to take the fight. What do you make of that comment?
I can't comment on what that man says.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose then people in general online, I mean, I know we said earlier we compared the odds and the stuff like that, but I put out a tweet yesterday just saying, look, obviously Anthony Joshua's going to go in there and do a job on him. Me personally, I hope he just knocks him out, Sparko, in a round and just gets it over and done with. If he decides that he wants to toy with him and make it hard work, so be it, whatever. There seem to be people online that are comparing this to the Andy Ruiz fight, and I just can't for the life of me Jake Paul's got millions and trillions of followers on all sorts of different social platforms, and I think it was boxing fans.
Well, listen, some of them are maybe not quite more boxing casual, fans. Yeah. Casual's a tricky word because it can be an insult. Absolutely. Yeah. So anyone that wants to support and follow boxing, that's great. But I think Jake Paul himself went down the Andy Ruiz route. It's something to do with height and size. So he's sown the seed. Then people are going, oh yeah, Andy Ruiz. He absolutely. I mean,
Andy Ruiz didn't go 12 rounds with Joseph Parker. And
Andy Ruiz had been at 1 or 2 Olympics, and he'd been at the youth World Championships and the World Championships, and had something like 200 or so amateur contests. And we realised the day before the Andy Ruiz fight that there was something wrong, not with AJ, although we found out later on there was loads of things wrong with AJ. It was a perfect storm of problems, all tiny, but they make a massive hole. But we realised that there was something wrong with our thinking about Ruiz, because we all had another look at each other. Or when I say all, me and Mike Costello, formerly of 5 Live, and we just said he's got a couple of things that AJ hates. He's a bit shorter, and he fights short, and he's really fast.
Very fast.
And no one gave him any credit for speed until he'd stopped AJ. But it was the Wednesday actually, Charlie, not the day before. The Wednesday at the public workouts in some shopping centre down by the Old World Trade Centres. And Costello and I were watching his feet. In fact, we filmed his feet. and it looked like we'd speeded up the film, but we weren't brave enough to actually say anything. We just said, no, listen, he's really sound, he's well scored, he's been at Olympics, he's been at World Amateur Championships, he's this, that and the other. And the two of us just weren't quite brave enough to say, but you know what? He's fast, and he's hard to hit. We in private we were saying it, we didn't say it in public. And that's why we're, sometimes so-called experts completely mess up, because you overthink things. And overthinking can be dangerous.
A couple of takeaways from the press
Go
conference,
on, Sam.
if you don't mind. Some Jake Paul lines.
Go on.
Oscar's just pinged them over to me now.
I'm a big fan. Go on, carry on.
He in the face-off, he did the slip throat.
What Jake did to AJ? Come on.
He's going to knock him out in the 4th round.
Come on, Jake. You got to love it, man.
I mean, you have to admire the kind of, delusion. Is that what it is?
Well, I don't even know if it's. I don't know if it's it's delusion. It's beyond. It's something other. It's something extra to delusion. I mean, it's just. It's. I don't like to throw around the word lunacy and madness, but it's a form of lunacy. And I mean, it's extreme delusion. Let's put it that way.
No longer with Ben Davison.
Yeah, no, but apparently, according to some stuff I read or saw, and I've spoken to one person, it's not a nasty split. It's worked out. Well, he's not going to be a camp, is it? He's already been training. He's already been in a camps, plural. I mean, he's been watching footage of him in Accra when he was there back in the summer, then in Lagos, Nigeria, for a good length of time, and then out with Usyk, as he's going to be trained by Igor. And he didn't explain who Igor was. And what's really bad, this is a form of racism, because a lot of Usyk's men look like they might be called Igor, right? People are just taking a guess of which one of the trainers it is. It's true. That's the absolute truth, Charlie. No one knows which Igor it is. There's probably not even an Igor in there. That might have been an AJ joke. I'm going to be trained by Igor. Because I've been around Usyk 7, 8, 9 times. Have you met an Igor yet?
Isn't that what they call him?
I have met an Igor.
Well, it might be Yuri, but even the Ukrainians might call him Igor because he looks like Igor when his name's not Igor. So he's going to be trained by Igor, which you've got to love. I'm sorry. So we're going to have Igor in the corner. If I'm Yuri, I'm showing up with a badge that says Igor, and my name for the entire fight week in Miami is just going to be Igor. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think what else is in there that we can. He said he's ready to die.
No, see, I don't like dying talk. I'm not a fan of dying talk, but I've been in too many situations, death fights or in intensive cares 4 times in the last 38 years. I don't like it when fighters say, I'm going to kill you. And then I don't like it when fighters talk about unprepared to die. I'm not saying the board should find fighters that use that expression, but I just think that we need to wean out those 2 words. There's no need. There's a load of other words we can. AJ talks about trampling him and smashing him and cutting him. That's perfectly fine. That's up against the wall. But killing and dying, because here's the thing: if you say I'm prepared to die, and God forbid you do die, that's really bad for us. If you say I want to kill you, and God forbid you do kill someone, that's really bad for us. Those are the type of quotes attached to the type of catastrophes that could really cost the sport massively and damagingly.
Subriel Mateus.
Yeah, that's a bit of a nuisance, isn't it? On the subject of death fights as well, by the way. Nice little seg there, Charlie. I saw what you did. I'm a little bit... It's the same thing that Ryan Garcia fouled for Osterine, and he got a year fine, a year ban and a decent fine. So we're assuming that's the case. However, when was the death fight? 2018 against Dadayeshev or whatever? Yeah, so that was 2018, 2019. That's a tricky one. Sad. When a man fouls a test of 3 or 4 fights later, 3 or 4 fights after what I call a death fight, that needs a little bit of scrutiny, and everyone needs to be a little bit calm until we've had another look and see what testing took place then, if there was even testing, because I'm not even sure where that fight took place.
The testing was done in camp in Puerto Rico last week.
Yeah, no, that's for this fight, but I'm talking about it was in November the 9th, so like going back 5 years or whatever, it's 4 years. Where were they tested? Were they tested? Okay, that's... Without having all those stats and facts in front of me, but that's, and I'm trying to think of a guy who's failed a test, who's been in a death fight, and I can't think of one. I mean, someone might come up with a really big obvious one, but I can't think of one, Charlie.
Finally,
go on, son.
I'm always baffled when I kind of, not baffled, but I speak to you, and the love of the game always radiates off you. It's a sport, obviously, we're both so young in, but we love so dearly. You know, when we talk about, and I know exhibitions and stuff have happened in the past, but we talk about the Anthony Joshuas and the Jake Pauls and stuff like that. You know, my only real criticism, I quite like it. It does good numbers. I think if AJ's going to fight in an 8-rounder, you can't turn down the money, etc.
Absolutely.
I don't really think it should be sanctioned, but that's on the board of who makes that decision. But do you not ever sit there and kind of scratch your head and feel a bit? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's been so much to celebrate over the last couple of years as well. But does it not? You know, boxing frustrates me at the best of times. Does it not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That frustrates me. Lots of things frustrate me. I mean, you know, the fact that, you know, someone like Echo Esserman got overlooked for 2 or 3 years. Michael McKinson's being overlooked was just sticking with one weight and one country. The fact that fighters don't get the breaks they deserve across the board, that upsets me. My argument, my counter to that would be, yeah, absolutely. I'd rather AJ. Of course, I would rather AJ wasn't fighting Jake Paul. I'd rather he was fighting Frank Sanchez 5 or 6 months ago. Of course, I would rather that. By the way, do a better job on Sanchez than he might do on Jake Paul, because Sanchez would be really easy to hit. Of course I do, but I wouldn't have that as my... I'm not even sure that would creep into my top 100 things I've experienced that have annoyed me and frustrated me and made me... Yeah, I honestly, Charlie, yeah. I mean, I think about the...
You love it
dozens,
the way you always have.
Yeah, I think about the dozens of fighters that haven't had a break. Mark Taylor died recently. Just a former British middleweight champion. Died recently. He had to sue his management team when he'd finished boxing, and he got a settlement about 10 years later. That's all documented. You won't get legaled for that. 9 of his first 10 fights, he basically, as a complete novice, was selling out the Royal Albert Hall or Wembley. He was overmatched massively. We only ever won one British title fight. He was in a great eliminator once with Errol Christie that nearly caused a riot, a proper riot. There's a great bit of history attached to that. He was a massive golden boy from West Ham, ended up with absolutely nothing, with absolutely peanuts. Went out to California with his wife, who was American, and worked as a gardener. So someone like Mark Taylor, and there's dozens of Mark Taylors out. That's the kind of stuff that really frustrates me. Someone like AJ get in a fight with Jake Paul and make him 50, 60 or 70 million, that doesn't bother me, because I tell you what, AJ is not replacing anybody. I know he's the replacement for Tank, but he's not taking anyone's job, and the money that's going into that fight isn't taking any money away from fighters, and they're not being abused by the people around them. Again, you won't need to get that legal. No, there are things like that upset me more. The intransigence sometimes of the governing bodies and the sanctioning bodies, some of the WBC decisions, some of the IBF decisions, the WBA decisions, some of the decisions made even by the British Boxing Board of Control, who I massively support. Sometimes they make decisions that don't make sense to me, and they refuse to move their goal lines. So all sorts of things like that upset me far more than one of our greatest attractions, Anthony Joshua, fighting Jake Paul, who is the most honest pro out there, because he's a complete and utter salesman. Jake Paul is so sincere and so honest. When he says, it now works out, when he says, I want to fight him, I'll fight anyone, guess what? He means it.
That is true. Steve, I love chewing your ear off.
No, it's a pleasure, Charlie, boy. Friend. Thanks for both coming down.
Look forward to seeing you at the show later on tonight.
All right, brilliant. Man. Yeah, brilliant.
The Ring 4, November 22nd. Watch only on DAZN.